So here we are putting what we talk about into motion. Welcome to Rogue Beast Warrior. What I call in the future exposés that I'll be doing on this channel, the back door to fitness. And it really is a back door to fitness. Because for many, many years, I wanted to figure out how I can bring the multitude, starting with myself, the easiest possible solution. When I say solution, I'm talking about the amino acid solution, the dietary solution to achieving your fitness goals, but not only that, heightening your state of awareness, how you interact with the world around you. And this brought me years ago to a book called Heal with Amino Acids and Nutrients, written by the late, great Billie J. Saley. She was on the Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Council, the Presidential Council, and I believe even coined the phrase post-traumatic stress disorder, which has been mimicked and copied and reassimilated under other methodology and areas in science. But the truth remains is that amino acids are the healing building blocks of life. And you don't need to be a neuroscientist, don't even need to be a nutritionist to understand these things. So I've had several nutrition certifications. I've never worked in the field as a quote unquote academic professional, but I have done long, arduous hours of study, reading those books and books by Rudin and Elson Haas and many others that are centered around naturalistic healing properties of food and seasonal foods and how to best get the most out of these foods at the lowest possible cost. I'm also somebody who's very interested in what you might call spiritualism, but I believe that there's a lot more technology involved these days than one could hide behind the moniker of spiritualism. Perhaps to human beings it's spiritualist, but in a greater pervading sense, it really is assimilating back into a technology that we need to understand. And that's what I'm talking about today, is this interfacing, this language has to do with proteins. And in order to provide your body with these healing properties, it's as simple as this, and I'm doing it. I'm walking, I'm producing a low level systemic blood flow response constantly for many hours a day. I pre-make my protein. You'll see many other videos of me doing exactly the same thing. That's starting to get a little bit of a taste, and you can tell when protein is getting close to going bad, but I should be able to go through all that. And when I scoop out about 5 to 7 scoops, it'll last me 3 or 4 days, sometimes more. So what I'm talking about is a very low level amount of full spectrum amino acid protein, whey protein isolate. And so even though it's got a couple grams of sugar per scoop, I don't even take in, I'd say, 1/5 of a scoop every single hour. So no matter what I'm eating or not eating, I focus back in on making sure that my body has the full properties of a full spectrum, high quality amino acid source. And this may seem like a very small detail, but it could be equated to being on a drip system in the hospital. You know how when people are sick, well, that's when I first came upon the study of this and the knowledge of it, was in the realization of this. and also seeing what bodybuilders went through, right? And how their high efficiency toward a positive muscle nitrogen state. And ultimately, that's what the protein is doing for you. You know, it is alchemical. And so to constantly keep yourself in those positive states of attribution, you could say that it could be equated as anabolism, the building up, as opposed to catabolism with metabolism, the breaking down, right? So constant walking, constant movement. But as I've said, and I almost broke that the other day when I was doing a video on this and it was so hot, and I was saying mid-walk that I've never sweated. Well, the temperature, the weather is changing. We're heading through March. We're marching right into that hotter weather right now. But being on the Monterey Peninsula, it's a nice cool day again today. It is March 22nd, 2024. You could say catch 22, but when you're doing everything right, and you have been for the past year plus, it's not such a terrible place to be when you're constantly improving, which we have been on this channel, if you followed it at all. So make sure you're getting in your micronutrients or your nutrients. Get that book by Billy J. Saley, Heal with Amino Acids and Nutrients. Figure out how to heal yourself. And I'm not telling you that this is so. I'm not posturing myself as a doctor. I'm not telling you that I'm a nutritionist. I'm telling you what works for me and what I do. And then I show the show. I show you what's going on. And so when I'm not doing that, I fall back on carnivore. And I have honestly never gained any weight ever doing carnivore. What happens is I will go on these protein fasts where I will do a little higher amount of protein, maybe a few scoops per day, so like 75 to 80 grams. And that keeps me from catabolizing my lean muscle, from my body living off of that lean muscle tissue. I keep the stress levels very low. I stay at a very low level hum. This is probably the most strenuous that I get where I can actually talk and do videos while I'm walking. But I walk long, slow distance. So I will do this all day. I'll do other things. I'll do dishes. I'll cook, what have you. And I may even work out at times, but I usually save that for after my walk. I will get a minimum of 10 miles in typically. Sometimes it's less. Sometimes I just don't have the energy. I'm tired, but I always try. I always shoot for it. And 9 times out of 10, I do it. And we've averaged, just this year so far, the average has been huge. We've been doing over 200 miles a month. And even this month, I should be surpassing 220, even into 250. I've already, I think, done a couple hundred miles, and we still have a whole week left for this month. Whole week plus. We've got about eight days left for the whole month. So it should be a great month. And I don't feel like I'm progressing, but that's exactly the point, is that when you are supplied all the constituents you need from the nutrients and the micronutrients, right? And the protein structures that you need, your body will figure out the rest. That's the miracle of this machine here that we are able to utilize to the best of our ability. And our abilities can change based on our behavior and our behaviorism and what we do. Now, I adopted a very simple program. I'm thinking about how can I do the bare minimum to get by, to improve, to constantly get leaner, to constantly get better, and to do it at its height, right? And to stay on track with this, but also to do it in its simplest form. So here I am actually going toward my 1400th mile, 1400 miles that I've done this walk, right? A great majority of that time. of that distance, I have walked just like I am showing you right now, back and forth. I'm inside, it's safe, and I'm able to drink my water. I'm able to take in my protein. I'm able to bake my protein custard that I talk about as a staple, a dietary staple. It's so easy to make. It allows you to stay on carnivore. You're getting all of the richness from the amino acids. But even in that, I preach a very low level of this miracle cure, right? That is whey protein isolate. You want to pick one out where you like the flavor, you can tolerate it, but it has a very low level of sugar. And in fact, if you want to add in your own flavoring, a lot of times, especially with isopure, you can get the unflavored version. And you can add in allulose, which will bother your stomach. If you like the brown sugar or you like the sugar flavor, there are no calories. Your body can't process that. Just like I did a video on these shirataki noodles, right? But it's not really giving you any nutrition, but it's allowing you to get it down, allowing you to get down that which is nutritious. So we'll just keep going on. And every time I get a hankering, a motivation to do a video, right? But in the coming weeks, may even be this week, later this week, we'll be coming to you from the Tesla, right? We'll be coming to you from the gym. We'll be coming to you with some nice new clothing and a new attitude, showing the show, showing the pump. We'll be coming to you with new camera equipment. I plan on getting out, as I've said, and doing some outdoor activities. If I'm still around this area at all, we'll get down to Carmel Beach, which I don't really like. I don't really like the people in this area. There's a pretentiousness that's just unnecessary and undeserved. Small-minded, marginalized. And I do love the San Francisco Bay Area. And I might be coming to you there, but it's too highly populated. So I'm thinking about moving outside California altogether very soon. But for right now, in the next 3 months, 3 to 6 months, and maybe at 1 year stage of really going up to that next level, to the conditioning that I used to be in, right? For many years, I walked with a very low percentage of body fat, and that's where we want to get to, where we're working on the striations, where there is nothing hanging, and the beauty here is you start to see autophagy occur around the clock. Your body is stuck in the solution of the solution, right? The fountain of youth of figuring out solutions. So when your body is winning and you're in the winningest stage of your own development, despite the age, you're no longer in death, you're in life. And so you're figuring things out. You're at the height of who you are, genetically, from a super physiological sense, right? So that's what we preach here. The back door to fitness. So a really low level walk, a really chill walk, you should be able to talk and walk. You go back to your walk all through the day. You constantly try to figure out a way to get more done as you walk. So that's why we're going to be upgrading to the Samsung S24 Ultra, because I can use that as a workstation if I want to. If I'm staying in a nice hotel with a smart TV, like the Marriott up in Sacramento area, or the Hilton, I'm able to walk in there, dial my Samsung S24 Ultra using the DeX right into the smart TV, and I've got a full-on high-powered computer available to me at all times. So things are getting much more friendlier for creators and for people who are on the go. You can also do all your crypto trading if you're into cryptocurrency, which is the future. You could say it's faded. You could say it's a good thing or a bad thing. But when we looked at the practicum of where we are, how we can best do what we need to do with the attributions that we have today at our disposal, that's what we're talking about. And I want to challenge and meet those challenges. So the Insta360 cameras are going to allow me to create more exciting footage, and the better, higher power editing equipment will allow me to create some really cool thumbnails and come forth with better edited videos that can reach a wide array of different people, and hopefully in different languages. We're going to figure that one out, because I know that my Indian brothers out there, brothers and sisters, Eastern Indian, are a large component to YouTube and the YouTube algorithm and the machine. They're also very much into the anti-aging aspects as a culture, I've noticed, and they relish the bodybuilding on a level where they really want to see the technology and the height of human potential existent in everyone all around us, to get past the poverty, get past the poverty and the ignorance, that's housed in the ignorance of that state of mind. That none of us need to digress or transgress down into those levels of the lower rungs or the lower realms of human indecency. So we want to be at our height, and that means going into a gym setting where the energy's good and people get inspired by me when they see me at my age, completely shredded, standing next to them, doing things that are, defying the laws of universal measure and means, and they want to know how I'm doing it. And then the beauty is that I can get paid from this, archival transmission, this form of multimedia, this form of social networking and expression, and to be able to give it to you for free, and then even be paid so that I can develop programs that you can follow easily at the base level to do the very least and get the very most out of it. And then you can go into the fractals of your occupation and deliver even more. Because we are producing a powerhouse machine, ultimately. We are becoming the measure of that computerized, existentially in awareness, that vibratory force with who you are as an individual is in this connectivity and this neural networking that is connecting you to a totality of a greater mechanism, a greater means. Art Bell, Coast to Coast, he called it the quickening. There's been other terms for it over the ages, right? But we, as individuals, go through this catharsis, this metanoia, this radical transformation, right? And what we need to stop doing is being in awe of it, and we need to stay in this zone of inspiration where we don't even necessarily have to accept it. We just do it. And you're not doing it unless you're moving. So again, it gets back into what we started this video out talking about, is that everything that I talk about is in movement. It is in transition. And when I speak the word and I'm moving, I'm giving it life. I'm putting the energy, the calories, the sweat, the blood, the resources, the focus, mile by mile into this channel. And even if what I'm saying doesn't seem too miraculous, which you'd have to have no pulse at all not to see that what we're talking about is a pervading truth that's much larger than you and I. Or is it? Because we represent, in a holographic sense, the health of the existential, that which fractals out from us, right? And who we are intrinsically, and the behaviorism that we follow through every single day and all that we do, and the principles, right? So we want to purify. And one thing that I can tell you is when you are on the carnivore, you would think from an outside perspective that you would be impure. The problem there lies is that when you are a pure person in your pure state and you're using the attributions at their height of what's available to you, what I'm saying is we need to work beyond meat and we need to find a better solution, but that hasn't happened yet. And there's a lot of manipulation in growing this, the fabricated meat, like Amazon is doing this, big in it. Bill Gates. I mean, it's a big thing, and we don't want to get tricked by these so-called oligarchs, right? And all they care about is themselves. So what we're really looking at is the only thing that we can do to manipulate this is to go back to the protein, is to go back to the whey protein isolate. That's the only thing we've got right now. And I'm sure that they've tampered with that too, but all the amino acids are available. And so it's your choice, form follows function, function into form, to formulate and form yourself, to supply all of the needed required amino acids for these enzymatic responses, right? To build your cell structures up, to become more, or to just assume that you're getting everything you need and experience further degradation. You don't have to be in that mind state. So get yourself a good multivitamin. To me, EVL is a great brand. I feel the difference. Get yourself trace minerals. And then if you can, get yourself some creatine, because this has been found to be one of the best anti-aging, affordable, over-the-counter prescriptive plans that you can get on. All the studies show that that is true. The whey protein, there was research done years ago, MIT, many other studies that determined that just by taking in more protein, higher quality protein with every meal, your body weight is going to be lower, you're going to be leaner, you're going to be fitter, you're going to be able to repair. It goes without saying. I mean, you're providing those constituents, but you're taking it from a pure center, a pure place. It is that purified form of amino acids. So what I do is right now, all I've had is my coffee. I'm just passing my third mile. Usually what I try to do again is I try to walk 10 miles a day, and I'm successful on that most days. Sometimes I even exceed that. Very soon, I'll be riding bikes, running, because after 3/4 of a year of doing this, I'm fit. I'm able to transition this into other modalities, other modes of exercise. So look at, forward at me doing kettlebell training, obviously suspension training, TRX. I've had certifications in these fields, in these areas, also Pilates. If there's a Pilates reformer, I know how to use them. I don't believe in Pilates though. I don't like Pilates. I would rather get on a free form and do the Pilates exercises on the ground from a free motion machine, which you can do. And it's much more gratifying and challenging. Yoga, in my opinion, Davis' book on stretch gives you all the best highlights of any type of yoga movement that you could do in a practical way, where you're not getting into the spiritualistic mantra of the whole thing and you're not having to do it with other people. I think that this is the time of the power of one, that you need to separate yourself and that you're given all the tools. For the first time, at least in our history, you are not subject to having to be around other people. In other words, if you do it right with YouTube, you can get paid and you can get monetized to bring this information at a higher rate, a higher level of efficacy toward a greater population. I don't have to work one-on-one with clients that either see or don't see or relish or don't relish in what I'm talking about. For the vast majority, the truth is evident. I lay everything out here in a very transparent way. I tell you my history, I tell you my credentials, I tell you what I've done. I've been a very high level trainer. I walked away from it for spiritual growth. I shunned away from the use of anything that was carnal, temporal, corporeal in any way. I got in really bad shape as a result, and I didn't care. I stuck to my guns, and it was the hardest thing for me to get away from this because fundamentally, after almost a decade of doing this in the past, it was who I was, but it didn't lead to more. So I'm trying to tell you that we live in a time where you can practice this, but you need to put the ego aside. You need to realize that if I'm talking about this and I'm reaching these states of higher development, that you too can reach these states. And there is no time where you should go through a rebellion or look at yourself in the mirror and suck your cheeks in and think about how beautiful and great you are. Everyone needs to be that beautiful and that great and that egoless in order to serve and gratify the one ego, which you could esteem as God. Yeah. We're not doing any satanic worship. We're not doing any devil worship. There's not any occulted sciences here. We're looking at the practicum and the practicality that we are a form of technology, and that through the golden mean that is seen in the Adonis Index, that is seen in the perfection of, Michelangelo's The Creation, that is the Vitruvian Man, that from an existential perspective, you see that those perfect harmonic frequencies and tones met in just the circumference and the uniformity of the perfect diet and the perfect structuralized day, right? And without protein, you're not going to be able to achieve that. Without being in constant movement, you're not going to be able to achieve that. Without pushing your body and strengthening your body and utilizes the forces of gravity, you're not going to be able to do that. So I bring to you the simplest methodology where you don't need to be like Brian Johnson. You don't need to be a multimillionaire in order to do this. In fact, the fact is that money won't even exist soon at all. The World Economic Forum is not lying about that. Money was a teaching tool, and when you reach this higher state of consciousness and being and becoming, you will have powers that can protect you. And at that point, you will then again decide if you're going to turn to an existential governorship or if you are going to do it on your own, right? And as a collective, people are supposed to come together and realize the power of unity and unification, that you should be respected and be able to practice your school of thought, your methodology, just like the Neoplatonists in the past, right? Just like those who studied Pythagoras, just like those who called themselves, Stoic, that followed a Stoicist sense. And obviously, there were cults and factions that stemmed from this that wanted to fork and harness off other people's energies and energy systems. And we can't be parasites. And that's the one thing. Nor can we be pariahs. Nor can we be put on the outside of society as vagabonds uh, there can't be any populist movement or club that excludes us from ultimate health and vitality. So you must purify, and you must make your intentions very clear. And in doing that, you're too busy for the bullshit. I'm too busy. One could say I'm too busy to even do this video right now in a kind of a crude sort of way, because I could breathe and I could really get into the groove. But the expression and the communication is more important, more paramount at this time, that I'm able to walk and do. And I see up here, it just flashed up on the screen, my move goal was just achieved. So that's proof positive that I'm able to both achieve what I set out to do as well as express myself. And that gets into my own personal religion, right? That I believe extends out to all faiths and all religions. And, you know, that's those areas of purity: faith, love, hope, mercy, compassion, passion, truth, or trust, duty, honor, union, grace, and temperance and care, working on both halves of that. And those are the 13 sub-principles. And purity, sacrifice, expression, wisdom, community, production, ego, and then the pure truth. Those are the main principles, those spheres that spin what we identify as colors and emotions, and really allow us to control the cathartic aspects of our emotional display and our reaction to what's happening around us. And then, not ironically, quite intentionally, those have created what we would call Metatron's cube, right? And you see this in the tree of life or the flower of life. It's those 6 spheres. Anything other than that is a lie, in my opinion. It's a fork off of that pure source energy. And there's a connectivity when you're doing this also, and when everyone is doing it. We are controlling what used to be established and called the Merkaba, right? It's the conscious mind in meditation, in motion, in a uniform sense, where we are all after the same cause, the same aim, the same goal. And there's been a power that has been challenging us, keeping us from it. But obviously, if we are able to achieve it, it was there to test us, but it was also there to pretend that it was helping us, right? So we need to burn past, in an incendiary sense, burn past the negative totalitarian existential governorship and control mechanism, and realize that we are sustained, right? And so, yeah, it gets into the secret. It gets into such areas that the Masons have fully displayed, the master key system that the secret came from. It's beyond the secret. It's beyond just wanting to establish a role in corrupt society. It's beyond any of those things where it's, you're just feeding back into the system, trying to gain in false wealth, right? Where the Masons were 100% involved with the production of the Statue of Liberty that sits out there that doesn't know if it's a woman or a man. Think about it for a second. This is all around us. It's androgynous is the whole point. Just like the Mona Lisa is androgynous. Think about it, okay? And think about the Rosicrucianism. You know, there are religious stalemates that are set in place for this very time right now. You don't have to follow anything but the religion that is within you. And like the great John Fruscione says, you should develop your own religion, right? Like the great Ben Howard says, a song, he likes to think of the song as more of a gesture, right? More of a notion. Right? But in that, it doesn't mean that time is in expiry. We exist in one time. It's always the same event, and it's never ending. And so the lie And the suffering through samsara is something that could have stopped all along, in my opinion. It's something that we have in our power to stop. That through this unifying means, grace, through the unifying, quantifying measure, no need to quantify, no need to ever look from the outside, we are in growth. We are resonating, we are in growth. There are no tumors, there is no cancer. Everything that has ever lived will live on. Everything good and pure and perfect, just, if you will. And so a lot of this was hidden, but it is not hidden. It's out in the open and it's waiting for you. And you can go through the simple process of following what I do on this channel. And if you have something else that you want to add to it, I can't see anything else required, but there can be other performance-based exercises that you add on in your daily life, whether that's a different form of calisthenics to further, promote and push your body to ever higher stages and states. So I'm just talking about the base here. It's going to get you there. But when you go through the performance aspects of it and the expression through personification or personality, that's a whole other area. You don't weigh the artist against the acrobat. They're both expressing from their pure and perfect state of being and becoming, right? But one has to look back at the ego. You should always be in an open forum. And this is where civilizations have fallen in the past, over and over again, time and again, where they get celebrated as God and placed in God status, and they start to hold back and refuse to teach others the process. Just because you're interested in being a great artist doesn't mean that you have the burgeoning ability. But there was a time when they understood this, that you're not born on this day, you're not born on this time, right? So we need to get better at identifying that so that there's no guesswork in what a person is to become. And there should be no pressure in someone becoming or not becoming, because there are new fringe areas that are being blocked right now in the endeavors of human achievement and consciousness, that we're going back to the old way when we look at acrobatics, human movement, and the movement system from the multiplanar positioning of the human, the Vitruvian man in time and space. We actually are evolved beyond that. So to go back to those egocentric ways, and the same with the artist, using the palette, using the canvas, or sculpting, you're still living in the samsara. You're still just expressing the system. So this is where these forms of false democracy and the falsity of liberty, as opposed to autonomy, right? There's something much greater happening here, where people are becoming integrated into the systematic expression of gods. And there's been a huge jealousy of those who thought that they were standing or sitting over others. There's been a slowing of this evolutionary process, where we are all going through this process of becoming gods in our own right. So that's what they're afraid of.